Hi everybody, Brian here, back with what I picked up over the past, I think since Easter was my last video I did. Haven't picked up a lot since then, but I did pick up some games here. We'll start with the Game Boy Advance games. I've been picking up a lot. I've been wanting to collect a lot more Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games, partially because of the anniversary of the Game Boy was this past few weeks or 2 weeks ago, April 20th I think it was, the 25th anniversary. And because they're so cheap, I picked up for the Game Boy Advance Klonoa Empire of Dreams. I'm a big fan of Banjo-Kazooie on the N64, and I picked up Banjo-Kazooie Grunty's Revenge. This was a late Game Boy Advance release, sometime around 2001, 2000, after Microsoft acquired Rare. And actually this was published by THQ. I didn't even know about it. I never heard about it or anything like that until I saw it. I never played Rayman on the PlayStation or Saturn. This is the port of it for the Game Boy Advance, Rayman Advance. There were games for the Game Boy Advance that used the Advance suffix, like the Super Nintendo used the Super prefix. So happy. This was an early launch game for the Game Boy Advance, I believe. I'm not too sure though. For the Game Boy Color, I picked up Warlocked. This is a real-time strategy game developed by Nintendo. More curious about it because I don't know how you play a real-time strategy game with just 2 buttons on the Game Boy like B and A. I picked it up because it was a cheap one, and I've heard decent things about it just online from, I think Craig from TV and Less mentioned he liked it, and I thought I'd pick that up for cheap. Top Gear Pockets was $1, and I thought this would be more like an RC Pro-Am over the top, or more like maybe Super Off-Road over the top, I should say, or an RC Pro-Am style isometric racing game, but it's actually like Top Gear for the Super Nintendo, where you see your car from behind your car. And I didn't know much about it, but for $1 I'll pick it up. And one of the original launch games for the Game Boy, Alleyway. It's like Breakout, but you play as Mario inside this capsule. At the beginning of the stage, Mario jumps inside this little capsule ship. And you basically, if you haven't played Breakout, or any variation of it, you have to hit the ball up into the blocks at the top to break them. Very addicting. I had Breakout, or I think it was Breakout, a game similar to it for the Atari 2600 I used to play as a kid. For the NES, I already have Blades of Steel, but this is the actual re-release, a little more uncommon to find. It's not expensive, it was only $5, but it's more uncommon. It's the Konami Classics release of Blades of Steel. Almost like an early Greatest Hits release. As you can see, it still has a classic Konami silver box art, but it is inside this red label, almost Greatest Hits label. And I had to pick it up because Blades of Steel is I think it's the best hockey game on the NES. There isn't a lot. There's ice hockey, which is very fun too. You can pick different skinny, fat, or normal people. Blades of Steel, and happy to have the second variant of this. And that's when you know you really like the NES, because you pick up variants and stuff like that. I just love NES collecting because of that. Just so many unique, I didn't even know that this was until I saw it and researched about it. Just love finding stuff about that, about video games. For the Sega Genesis, another system I really love collecting for, because you can find games that you've never heard of, like Death Duel. Never heard of this, picked it up for cheap, and for the Sega Genesis, you can find complete in-box, beautifully conditioned, minus the hang tab, games for cheap. And just look at the cover here. It looks like it's almost an Alien versus Predator vibe. That's almost what it is like. It's like you versus another monster robot in a duel, and you have to move your reticle around. I don't know much about it. I just finished watching a Classic Game Room episode of it that Mark did from Classic Game Room, did it in 2008. And he really enjoyed it. He thought it would be cheesy and not that good, but he really enjoyed it. And I'm glad I picked it up for that much, because it seems very interesting. And Sega Genesis, always a good thing to buy games for. And for the 3DS, 2 big releases came out today, actually, and that's Kirby. Oops, here we go. Kirby Triple Deluxe. See, he actually looks mad on the cover of this one. Well, actually, I should say he continues the tradition of looking mad on all of the North American box arts. He looks really mad. I think in the Japanese one, he still looks mad, too. Kirby Triple Deluxe. And Mario Golf World Tour. I think this will be my first Mario Golf game. I didn't have one for the GameCube. There's Toadstool's Tour. I didn't play that. And I wish I would have picked that up when I saw it for $2.50 a long time ago, because I can't find it anymore now. Might have been $5, but anyway. And there was one for the Game Boy Advance I almost picked up, but I thought, this is coming out. I think I'll pick this up and play this first, and then maybe go back and get Mario Golf Advanced for the Game Boy Advance. So I love golf games. I really like Wii Golf, and so happy to have this to my 3DS collection. And that's everything I got. Not a lot, but two good 3DS releases and a second release of a classic hockey game for the NES, and some great Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games. So, hope everybody has a great weekend, and I'll see you again sometime out in the future. Bye.